So we're ready to start first cuts. The wet saw is here, and we will be working on the cuts. Everything is always covered on my project, so don't worry about that. I always have permission from the homeowners to set the wet saw whatever I want, and it's usually garage. But yes, so let me start working on the first cuts. And real quick, just to show you, the best tool to do any cutting will be wet saw. The cuts will look the nicest. So I have my list of all the cuts, and the way you're marking the cuts, you can of course grab the tape, do the mark, and then cut it along the line. And this is how many contractors do, and this is probably the way you will do it. I'm doing this a little bit differently. I have a scale here also on the wet saw, and I'm using this scale and also verifying this with the measuring tape. So if we have a 5 1/4 cuts, this is what we're gonna have over here. Everything is adjusted. So let me do the first cut. I'm double checking if this is our desired size. Everything looks good. So now we have a nice original slightly rounded edge, and this is our edge that has a 90-degree cutout and is not really the smoothest one. So what you can do, what I am doing after the cut is done, to make it less sharp, I'm gonna very gently slide the rough edge against the blade on the side of the wet saw. This way the cut has nice smooth finish. It's never gonna look like original side, but it's not cheap, it's not sharp, it's nice and smooth. This will be actually going against the top, so it's not going to be exposed edge, but still it looks way nicer. If you don't have a wet saw, if you don't have a technique to do it, sometimes we can just grab a scrap of tile and slightly just scrub the edge. It also should remove some rougher edging, but if you want to know how to do it right, this is how to do it right. And my first cut is in place. Of course I will wipe it with a towel, because the goal is to make sure that the tiles are dry before applying thinset. So, because otherwise they will just pop out later down the road. The thinset is not going to bond well to them. So each tile has to cut has to be dry before installing. Also, please do not use mastic. Use mortar. What I'm using, it's VersaBond. It's thinset mortar. It's latex modified product. This is the consistency of this product. That should be, you see, cannot be too liquid, cannot be too dry. So this is it. And yes, so when it comes to setting component, thinset, VersaBond is very good. From custom building products you can use Mapei, will be another one, and there's some other brands on the market as well. I'm leaving this up to you. The white will be the cleanest to work with. I'm always working with the white because my work looks clean, and this is my goal always, to not leave the messy job site and have everything nice and the way it should be done. So the next step for me will be to work on the cuts, to cut the first roll, and I'll show you a little bit more later. And we have another tiles on a truck for the master. Over there we're working with the natural stone. So stay tuned and you will see how to install some tiles around the top. There you go. It says it all. Alright, so all the cuts, first cuts been cut and tints have been mixed, and I'm ready to start working with the first roll of tiles. I'm using 3/8 of an inch notch trowel. You can use quarter, you can use half inch. This particular one, 3/8 is good because it gives me good coverage, gives me enough setting component to play with the tile also. But yes, so I have the first pieces and let me start. Like I said, making sure that the cuts are nice and dry, and the way I'm applying setting component, I'm always applying on a tile. I'm never applying it on a wall, because to do the installation right, it takes time. We have to play with the tiles, we have to adjust it, and before we get to the point where we already have tinset spread, it might appear that the tinset is dry or kind of not sticky anymore, and you have to remove it. Doing this way is also way cleaner. So I have the first piece, and the first piece goes here against the line that I marked. This is how I'm gonna follow. So the first piece is in place. I'm not adjusting anything yet. For now I'm just placing those pieces. This is our corner cut. Okay. Just putting them. This is our cut. Okay. So first thing is for me to stick the first pieces to the wall, push it nicely, firmly, so they touches the way they should. Our first cut to the corner. This one been cut a little bit in an angle. Okay, and the second one goes to the other side. We want to make sure that that our cut, it doesn't have to touch to the wall. We always leave some space, but we want to make sure that actually the tile that goes from the side will cover this cut edge, right? So this is it. Alright, once I have the first roll roughly in place, what I'm doing, I'm grabbing my level to check if everything is nice and flat. The goal is to have a flat wall. This is why I'm focusing so much on the preparation. And as you can see, this floor is pretty much flat. There's no anything that is bumped, right? So this is one of the goals. If it's too hard for you to install the tiles that way and prepare the walls that way, of course you can follow the shape of the wall and just play with the pieces. Do it the way it's not obvious, it's not visible. But the way I have everything prepared is that level actually nicely lays flat. There might be very tiny bitty small differences that are allowed, but not a lot. So this is it. So once I have the first roll in place, my next step will be to adjust all the tiles to the level. And let me grab a wet sponge, because wet sponge is always very useful, very handy. I'm cleaning off the surface of the tile to make sure that there's no any tinted residues. And what I'm doing, I'm putting my level flat on the tiles in the first roll, because the goal is to have the first roll nicely leveled. And yes, right now what I'm doing, I'm pretty much adjusting the bottom with those smaller shims designed for that purpose, and just sticking them under the tile on the bottom section to lift the pieces and adjust them, because we want to make sure that we have a small space for the grout or for the caulking. I'm not really recommending for these tiles to sit directly on the tub. So I'm checking with the corner and then checking with the center tile in the middle and adjusting level accordingly to this between those two pieces. And looks like this is what we've got. I'm adjusting the space to 3/16 of an inch. Okay, and let me go in the other corner now. So I'm sticking those little shims. Okay. We have this one, and we have the last one. And now, as you can see, the tiles on the front wall, this is our level, and this is how it looks like. There's no space. The level lays nice and flat on the first roll from side to side. So this is how we're starting. This is our foundation, our base. If this one is messed up, the rest of the tile work will be a nightmare for you guys. So make sure that the first roll is good, and let's say sometimes it might keep sliding, because once we will start tiling farther, there will be more and more weight on the tiles. What you can do, you can just tile the first roll all the way around, let it set, let it dry, and move forward with the remaining walls next day. And sometimes what you can see on the video, what I'm showing how to tile walk-in shower, what I'm doing, I'm actually putting a piece of wood and all the way around the shower walls, and starting my installation from the second roll of the tiles, and continuing with the bottom next day. But main reason for that is that later on the shower we have the tile floor, and then I'm adjusting tiles to the shower floor, which is always has a little bit of a pitch. So there are different reasons for that. In this case, I'm going to continue, because I know this is not going to go anywhere, but you can do it the way you prefer better. The next step will be sides. I already have cut those first pieces, and for the side, here we have a slightly different dimension. We're going to start here from the angle, from our mark, but we have the faucet on our way. So what I'm doing, I'm going to set the first tile. Okay. And what I will do, now I'm going to measure the cut. And Peter is going to work on the cutting for that. But pretty much the way we can just put the tile here and nicely mark. We want to make sure we have enough room to eventually unscrew the pipe. So I'm marking that, and from the bottom we can place the tile against the line and mark on the bottom. I'm doing mark over here, and this mark I'm transferring here. So this is our cutout. This is our notch that later will be covered with the faucet. You can of course use measuring tape for that. Either one will work. So the first cut is ready, and I'm going to follow up with this in just a moment. I already have the cuts for the other side, so let me put also pieces on the other side. Because I'm always trying to do the first roll all the way around at one time. Sometimes I will also be tiling just roll after roll after roll. Sometimes I will tile the entire back wall first, and then we'll be working on the sides. It depends. But the safest way is to do it the way I'm showing you right now, tiling the first roll all the way first, and second roll all the way first, and then round and round we go. So this is it. Of course, walls in the showers often are out of level. We want to make sure to prepare the walls and bring it to the level if possible, or at least make them flat. But often we cannot really level the walls, so often the cuts to the wall here or here will be slightly in an angle. So don't forget about that. Okay, same situation. I'm placing my level, everything looks flat. This is the first roll. So my next step will be to put level here on a corner or our front wall, where I already have adjusted and ready. And now I'm starting from the outside piece on that side. I'm putting those shifts to raise the tile a little bit. Before I measure the corner cut. Okay. So this is it. This one been measured. Everything looks good. And now I am ready to cut our pieces. We had 5 1/4 to the top, and now I'm measuring sides. Okay, so looks like we have to leave just a little bit space in the corner for the grout, and we have 3/8, 5 3/8, 5 3/8. So looks like the cut will be straight, no angles. So 5 1/8 of an inch will work. It gives us 1/16 gap to the tile, to 1/8 and 3/16 grout space. So for 5 3/8 spacing, I will do 5 1/8 of an inch cut to the side, and 5 1/4 to the bottom. So let me work on that cut. We have another one on the other side, and yes, the first roll is almost ready. So the cut been made. And now I'm placing it in the corner over here. And as you can see, we have a small gap over there for the grout and our 3/16 of an inch space on that side. I'm not using spacers because I've seen enough 3/16 of an inch spacings in my life, and I remember how it looks like after so many years, so I don't have to use spacers for that. But You can of course use spacers, because if you never did that before, they will definitely help you out to keep the joints consistent. Yes, and same situation, I'm placing level, pushing the cut all the way against the level, so this side is in place. Now let me put this piece on the other side. This is our notch, everything nicely fits. We can use circular bit to cut the circular hole if you want to. In this case, it doesn't make any sense, so we've used the grinder to cut this one. You can also make such cuts on a wet saw. Okay, so the second one on that side. I'm gonna make sure to put some pressure so it nicely fill the space. And now what I will probably do, I will see if my level will actually sit on that. Let me check, let me remove the tin set. And what I might have to do, I have to unscrew the pipe. Yeah, the level rests on the pipe, so what I will do, I showed you on one of my other videos, I have actually, I'm showing how to install such valve for the tub. So as you know, if you've already seen it, this pipe actually is threaded. It's screwed in to the fitting in the wall, and Teflon tape is used to seal it. It gives me option to unscrew it if I have to. So I'm gonna unscrew this in just a moment, place the level, and make sure that we have the first roll nicely done. Okay, so I'm unscrewing this pipe that we had over here, the threaded fitting. Now I can place my level, play with the pieces a little bit. Alright, so it looks like we have this also under control. Now we're gonna work on a cut, and in this way we're gonna have a first roll ready. The size of the cut should be very close to what we have on the other side. It looks like in this case we have a 5 inches, so there's 1/8 of an inch difference. And this is what we will cut on that corner. Another thing is, sometimes you can see contractor centering tile work with a valve. I mean, it looks decent to have this centered, because the valve has to be centered with the tub, but what looks bad, the cuts to the sides looks bad. So we're not really focusing on centering tiles to the valve. Sometimes we can do it, especially in the showers, we have more options to play. But in this case we always start from the solid piece, because this is how it's supposed to follow, nice continuation, versus having some type of a cut to the side and then different cut over here, or this kind of uneven. So you can do it however you want it. I'm telling you the way it looks the cleanest, the nicest. So let's do the cut and I'll keep you updated. Okay, so the last cut is in place. This is where it goes. Okay. Looks like everything is exactly the way it should be. Alright, so the first roll has been done. Everything is nicely lining all the way around, and the next step will be to move forward with the solid pieces on the back wall, then going to the side walls all the way to the accent. Our next step will be accent, and I will show you how I'm working on an accent as well. How to tile the walls and do all the cuts. You can see this in one of my other videos when I'm showing how to tile a shower. Right from this point the rules are exactly same situation, and I will throw some pictures from this project as well, but to get more information, check the video on installing shower tile, and it will answer any questions that you might have. So let me move forward.